Hey, dear members of the Soul and Love Stories family. Today we're whisking you away to the golden autumn of Boulder, where a tiny act of kindness sparks a love that mends quiet hearts. Get ready for Grace, Miles, and Benjamin's heartwarming journey in a kindergarten teacher took in a quiet boy. Then his millionaire father fell in love with her. Let's dive into this cozy, fall-tinted rom-com filled with paper planes, cookies, and unexpected connections. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to catch every touching tale, and please drop a comment with your city so we know where you're watching from. Let's soar into the story. In Boulder, Colorado, on a crisp fall morning, the air carried the scent of dry leaves and fresh coffee. Little Acorns Academy glowed with golden sunlight, children's laughter ringing like a wordless song. Grace Sullivan stood in her colorful classroom, floral dress slightly dated, fluttering as she bent to pick up a plastic apple rolling under a table. "Who's letting apples escape now?" she muttered, glancing at the cactus on the windowsill. "See that, Spike? These kids are livelier than the Broncos today." Grace was the teacher every parent dreamed of, a heart warm as fresh cookies, a smile that eased kids' first-day fears. But last night, strolling through Valmont Park, she'd seen a middle-aged couple holding hands under a street lamp. She'd paused, sighed, and told herself, "Love's not for busy folks like me, right, Spike?" She adored her job, her kids, but sometimes a quiet corner of her heart wondered if she'd missed something bigger, like when she turned down her ex's proposal to chase her teaching dream. Today, Grace's class welcomed a new student, Miles Carter, small, with big brown eyes hiding behind messy hair. He sat in the corner, clutching a worn comic book with a faded airplane on the cover. While other kids babbled about their dogs or flaunted new sneakers, Miles stayed silent, head down, scribbling jagged lines on paper. At lunch, Grace hosted a mini potluck in class, a tradition she loved, inspired by Boulder's community feasts. The kids brought a mix: cookies, peanut butter sandwiches, even a box of goldfish crackers one boy swore was fancy. Grace set a homemade chocolate cookie by Miles with a note: "If you don't want to talk, draw what you like for me." She smiled, busying herself with plastic apples to give him space. At day's end, while cleaning, Grace found Miles' paper. He'd drawn an airplane, wings curved, with a tiny red heart blazing in the sky. She laughed softly. "A flying heart? You're a mystery pilot, kid." She tucked the drawing in her desk, but her chest tightened reading Miles' file. Mother gone 2 years. Father a busy entrepreneur. The boy often with a nanny. A quiet heart, Grace thought, but I'll help it soar. She looked out at Boulder's golden hills, the classroom still humming with the day's chaos. Miles' silence wasn't new. Grace had seen shy kids before, but that heart in the sky felt like a signal. She wouldn't push, not yet. Tomorrow she'd bring more cookies, maybe ask about airplanes. For now, she whispered to Spike, "We've got a dreamer here. Let's see where he flies." The sun dipped low, casting long shadows, and Grace felt a spark of purpose. Knowing one small heart might just lift hers too, in a town where fall leaves and quiet dreams danced together. Weeks later, golden leaves blanketed Boulder's paths, carpeting the entrance to Little Acorns Academy like nature's quilt. Grace Sullivan had grown used to Miles in the classroom corner, clutching his airplane comic, but she noticed him looking up more, especially when she spun tales of migrating birds or played pilot herding kids in gym class. "Slow and steady, kid," she thought. "I'll get a big laugh out of you someday." One Thursday afternoon, rain pounded Boulder, water streaming across the schoolyard. Parents trickled in to pick up their kids, but Miles stayed put, tiny sneakers swinging under his chair. Grace checked her phone, a text from Miles's nanny stuck in flooded streets, apologizing profusely. "No worries," Grace replied, then turned to Miles, mid-sketch of another airplane. "Hey, pilot, looks like we're a team tonight. Bet you haven't seen the staff room's baseball reruns yet." She led him to the cozy staff lounge with its worn sofa and faint coffee scent. Grace flicked on the TV, picking an old Colorado Rockies game. Not because she loved sports, but because kids gravitated to loud, colorful chaos. Miles stayed quiet, but when Grace cheered, "Home run!" and swung an imaginary bat, his lips twitched. She grabbed a bag of goldfish crackers, splitting them. I take heads, you get tails. Fair deal? Miles nodded, grabbing a piece, then folded a paper crane from a candy wrapper, setting it by her as a silent thank you. Grace's phone buzzed. A deep, rushed voice spoke. Benjamin Carter, Miles's dad. You're with my son? Grace glanced at Miles, glued to the TV, and answered, calm but sharp. Not exactly with, Mr. Carter. I'm just co-piloting with this little aviator. Boulder rain's no joke. A pause, then Benjamin said, Thank you. I'm on my way. Half an hour later, Benjamin appeared at the school door. Black suit soaked, hair messy but radiating fresh from Forbes polish. Tall, broad-shouldered, his green eyes held a flicker of stress. Grace stood, brushing goldfish crumbs off her dress, grinning. I half expected a helicopter entrance, superhero style. Welcome to reality, Mr. Carter. Benjamin raised an eyebrow, unused to teasing, but his mouth softened. Miss Sullivan, right? Thanks for staying. Miles doesn't talk much. Grace nodded, glancing at Miles clutching his comic. I know, but he made me a paper crane today, so I'm calling it progress. She knelt, whispering to Miles, Next time, I'm waiting for a helicopter drawing, okay? Miles didn't answer, but gripped Benjamin's hand tighter, and Grace caught a faint spark in his eyes. As father and son left, Grace sat in the lounge, staring at the paper crane. She thought of Miles, his airplane sketches, and vowed to draw out more words. She didn't know this moment marked something else. Benjamin Carter noticing her, not just as his son's teacher, but as the first person to make Miles nod after a long, silent day. The rain slowed outside, leaves swirling, and Grace felt a quiet shift, like a new story taking wing in Boulder's golden autumn light. Autumn in Boulder turned more vivid, with maple trees glowing red like brushstrokes along the path to Little Acorns Academy. Grace Sullivan kept a close eye on Miles each day. He stayed quiet, but began leaving drawings on her desk. Airplanes, hot air balloons, even a house with heart-shaped windows. Got plans to rule the skies, little pilot? Grace teased, and for the first time, Miles cracked a smile. Small, but it hit her like she'd just scored the winning touchdown at the Super Bowl. One Friday afternoon, Benjamin Carter appeared before pickup, sharp in his usual suit but holding a takeout coffee from the Brew Barn, a local spot. He tapped on Grace's classroom door, a bit uneasy. Miss Sullivan, I heard about after-school programs. There's an art club, right? Miles, he's been drawing a lot. Grace arched an eyebrow, pretending to be stern. Mr. Carter, you're not trying to make me his private art tutor, are you? I've got to warn you, my specialty's stick-figure cacti. Benjamin let out a laugh, low and warm, a sound she hadn't heard before. No, I just think you could get him to open up a little. Grace agreed to lead Miles in the art club, not for Benjamin's sake, but because she saw how the boy's face brightened when he held a crayon. Every Tuesday afternoon, she sat with Miles and a handful of other kids around a worn wooden table, sketching superheroes, rocket ships, and oversized donuts. One session, Miles tugged her sleeve, pointing shyly to his paper. An airplane carrying two figures, one with curly hair like hers, another with glasses like Benjamin. Where are we headed, kiddo? Grace asked, voice soft. Miles whispered, barely audible, where Mom said it's happy. Grace's throat tightened. She hugged him gently, feeling her heart lurch like it had caught a wild pitch. That weekend, the school threw its fall harvest fair, a Boulder staple where moms showed off heirloom pumpkins and dads duked it out at ring toss for bragging rights. Grace guided her art club kids to a face painting booth, brushes flying with glittery stars and tiger stripes. To her surprise, Benjamin showed up with Miles, looking out of place amid the chaos, a cup of hot apple cider in hand. I have no clue what I'm doing here, he confessed as Grace pulled him toward a ball toss game. Loosen up, Mr. Carter, she grinned, tossing him a ball. Knock over those cans and I'll crown you MVP. Benjamin whiffed, predictably, but when Grace scored a teddy bear for Miles, the boy clutched it tight, his eyes shining as he glanced between her and his dad. The fair wound down with sticky toffee apples and Miles' rare laughter as Grace play-acted dizzy from scarfing too many mini donuts. Benjamin stood close, hands in pockets, his gaze softer than she'd ever seen. Miss Sullivan, he said as they walked off, you made me think fairs aren't half bad. Grace winked. Stick to avoiding dishwashers at home, and I'll call it a win. She didn't catch Benjamin's smile as she turned, not aimed at the fair, but at her. Under Boulder's streetlights, leaves swirled, and Grace sensed something new, unnamed, like a drawing slowly forming in the crisp golden air of fall. Autumn in Boulder shifted to grays, cold winds sweeping golden leaves across Little Acorns Academy's yard. Grace Sullivan still began each day whispering to her cactus, Spike. But lately her gaze lingered on Miles. The boy now spoke in short bursts. What color plane do you like? Or, I drew this for you today. Each sketch felt like a small victory, yet it stirred unease in Grace. She was growing too attached to this quiet kid, and to his father, Benjamin Carter. One afternoon, as Grace tidied her classroom, the principal walked in with a white envelope. Grace, this is big, she said, voice bright. An international school in Denver offered Grace a role as an art program advisor, double her pay, plus chances to travel abroad. Grace took the envelope, forcing a smile, but her mind churned like a baseball game stuck in extra innings. She loved Boulder, her kids, the afternoon sketching with Miles. Yet she recalled sleepless nights wondering if she'd missed something greater, like when she turned down a marriage proposal to stay here. Thanks, I'll think it over, she said. But closing the classroom door, the room seemed to press in tight. That night, Grace skipped art club, texting an excuse about feeling tired. She slumped on her apartment's sofa, staring at an old cardboard box, half-packed years ago when she'd toyed with leaving. The TV droned a cooking show, ignored as she muttered, I can't just be the cookie teacher forever, can I? Meanwhile, at the Carter house, Miles sat still, ignoring his favorite cookies. Benjamin called Grace, his voice tighter than usual. You okay? Miles won't eat. He keeps asking where you are. Grace tried for cheer. Just a little wiped, Mr. Carter. I'll bring extra cookies for him tomorrow. But Benjamin didn't let it go. An hour later, he showed up at her door, holding a paper bag from a local pho shop, rain speckling his coat. Miles said you like pho when you're tired, he said, sheepish. Grace laughed, waving him in, but opening the bag, she found a paper airplane inside, scrawled with Miles' wobbly writing, Don't fly away. She sank onto the sofa, eyes stinging. Benjamin stood frozen, then spoke, voice low. I used to think I could control everything. My company, my schedule, even Miles. When my wife died, I learned I control nothing. I don't want to lose anyone else, Grace, not you. Grace met his eyes. Not the cold CEO now, but a scared father, a man daring to say what he'd held back. She clutched the paper plane, whispering, I don't know if I can be enough for Miles, or you. I'm scared staying means losing myself. Benjamin stepped closer, resting a hand on her shoulder, gentle but firm. You don't need to be enough. Just be Grace, the one who got my son to draw hard after 2 years. Silence fell, broken only by rain tapping the window. Grace held the paper plane close, not answering yet, but she knew this night would shift everything, not just for her, but for all three of them. Days after the rain, Boulder basked in soft golden sunlight, but Grace Sullivan's heart still swirled like a baseball game, locked in a tie. Miles' paper airplane sat on her coffee table, next to the Denver job offer letter. She hadn't responded to the international school or spoken to Benjamin Carter since that rainy night when his words stole her sleep. I'm not cut out to love a CEO, right, Spike? She asked her cactus. But Spike, as usual, stayed mum. At Little Acorns Academy, Grace tried to keep things normal. She ran the art club, grinned when Miles sketched a hot air balloon carrying 3 tiny figures, him, her, Benjamin, floating over a flower field. But that day Benjamin arrived early, ditching his suit for a green sweater, looking more approachable. Miss Sullivan, he said, hands in pockets, I'd like to take you to dinner. Not for Miles, not for the club, for me. Grace blinked, heart pounding. Mr. Carter, I don't want to be hired to fix your family's happiness, she said, voice shaky. Benjamin smiled, stepping closer. I'm not hiring you anymore. I'm asking you, because you're Grace. Before she could answer, Miles tugged them both into an impromptu craft project, building a model airplane for the school's exhibit. The three sat around the Carter kitchen table, surrounded by glue, cardboard, and glitter. Grace tried to guide, but Benjamin fumbled, spilling glue while glitter clung to her hair. "If this is what love's like," Grace laughed, brushing sparkles from her eyebrows, "I need a bigger bottle of wine." Miles, for the first time, burst into laughter, a clear, bright sound that froze Grace and Benjamin. They locked eyes as if they'd unearthed treasure. That night, Grace visited Mrs. Dottie, her neighbor, with a sly smile and an ever-full cookie plate. "I'm scared staying means losing myself," Grace confessed, sipping tea. Mrs. Dottie tilted her head, sliding the cookies closer. "At my age, you learn love isn't finding perfection. It's finding someone who makes you want to bake cookies forever." Grace laughed, but her eyes lit up. She thought of Miles, Benjamin, the scribbled drawings filling her heart. The next day at art club, Miles handed Grace a new drawing. Three figures by an airplane, labeled, "Let's Fly Home." Grace clutched it, tears falling. She recognized it as words Miles' mother had written in a letter, words he'd held tight. Hugging him, Grace whispered, "I'm not flying anywhere, kid." In her heart, she knew she'd chosen, not just for Miles, but because she wanted to stay, to be part of this picture. Boulder's leaves swirled outside, and though the Denver letter lingered, Grace felt rooted, not by duty, but by a quiet joy growing in her chest, like a sketch finally taking shape. A year later, Boulder greeted another autumn, golden leaves blazing as if cheering for something grand. Grace Sullivan no longer eyed Miles' paper airplane with fear of leaving. It now sat framed beside her cactus, Spike, a reminder she'd chosen to stay. Her art club had become Little Acorns Academy's pride, and Miles, once silent, was its chief pilot, sketching airplanes soaring beyond imagination. Today was the school's annual play, the small stage decked with balloons and paper planes crafted by the kids. Parents packed folding chairs, murmuring about the Rockies and last week's pumpkin roast at the fair. Grace hovered backstage, her new floral dress, finally in style, fussing over props. Miles gripped her hand, eyes sparkling. "Miss Grace, I got a surprise today," he whispered. She grinned, ruffling his hair. "If it's more cookies, I'll need a new scale, kid." The play kicked off, kids transforming into pilots, migrating birds, and a singing cloud. Miles starred as a boy seeking home on a paper plane. In the final scene, he stepped center stage, holding a plane larger than the rest. The crowd hushed as he raised it, and a banner unfurled from its wings, scrawled in glittery crayon. "Marry, Dad?" Grace, backstage, gasped, clutching her chest like she'd caught a fastball. Parents whooped, some yelling, "Way to go, Miles!" Pure American style. Benjamin emerged from the shadows, no suit, just a simple blue shirt, kneeling on stage with a gleaming ring. He smiled, a touch shy, voice warm. "I figured Miles proposing might spook you less. Grace, he and I want you as our home. Will you?" Grace stumbled forward, eyes glistening but teasing. "Only if that ring's not origami, Mr. Carter." She knelt, hugging Miles, who whispered, voice shaky, "I don't want you just as my teacher. I want you as family." Grace sobbed, holding him tight, then turned to Benjamin, nodding. "Yes, both of you. I'm in." The crowd erupted, some moms wiping tears, dads hollering MVP like they'd witnessed a game-winning homer. After the play, Grace, Benjamin, and Miles sat outside the school, sharing cookies from Mrs. Dottie. The neighbor winked. "Told you, cookies always work." Miles looked up, serious. "So, 2 cookies every night, right?" Grace laughed, pulling him close. "New stepmom alert, kid. I'm negotiating down to 1 so we don't go broke on flour." Benjamin watched them, shaking his head, but his eyes glowed like the world had found its runway. As they left, hand in hand, Grace glanced at the schoolyard, where paper planes still danced in the breeze. She thought of her journey, from a teacher scared of love to one ready to take flight with a new family. Love, she realized, wasn't a perfect plan, but a messy sketch only a brave heart dared to color boldly. Boulder's golden light faded, leaves swirling, yet Grace felt grounded, her heart soaring higher than any of Miles's planes. tethered to two people who'd redrawn her world with glitter and courage. Thank you for soaring with us on this heartfelt journey with Grace, Miles, and Benjamin under the golden leaves of Boulder on the Soul and Love Stories channel. Share your thoughts about their cozy, cookie-filled rom-com in the comments below. And don't forget to leave a fly to send wishes for every family's joy and togetherness. If you believe a paper plane and a kind heart can mend any soul, hit the like button and share this tale with your friends. To keep savoring touching and meaningful stories, subscribe to our channel and join us in spreading messages of love and warmth. Let's cherish life's simple, beautiful moments together,